Okay, we're going to look at the graph of a radical function and a graph that would be the translation of the parent graph. So here's my parent graph for a radical function, and here's the graph I want to translate it to. But let's study this one first. Now you can definitely put this in your calculator and use your table to help you plot some points. But if you ever need to make a graph by hand, if I just make a table of values, so for my x values, I could choose 0 and take the square root of 0 and I get 0. Choose 1 for the x value, take the square root because I'm plugging it in here, and I would get 1. I don't think I'd want to do 2 because the square root of 2 is a random decimal. Square root of 3, random decimal. Plug in 4, square root of 4 is 2, square root of 9 is 3. And then I just plot my points. 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, and 9, 3, and here's my graph and my domain. Now if I try to put a negative value in here, then I'm going to be dealing with imaginary numbers, and I'm only working with real numbers right now. So x has to be greater than or equal to, because I can take the square root of 0, which I just did, and it produced 0. So my domain is x greater than or equal to 0. Now let's look at what happens when I translate this graph. The negative sign is going to cause a reflection over the x-axis. And the 3 is going to cause a stretch, a vertical stretch by 3. And underneath of the radical, take your x plus 7, and it's going to have to be, forgot that sign, greater than or equal to 0. So solve, and my x values will have to be everything greater than or equal to negative 7. If I plug in negative 7, then I get 0 under here. Square root of 0 is 0, I'm okay. And then everything greater than negative 7, let's say negative 6, negative 6 plus 7 would produce a 1, square root of 1 is 1, so I'm okay. So this is going to end up being my domain, but that negative 7 is going to end up shifting me. So negative 7 units, or you could say 7 units left. And then my plus 4 that is outside of the radical is my vertical shift. So I have a vertical shift 4 units up. And now, to start my graph, find your negative 7. Gotta add 1. And go up 4. And that's going to be your starting point. And then you're going to be going down for your reflection. And you're going to go down a lot faster than that one went up because you have a vertical stretch of 3. And I would suggest from this point to use your calculator and to use the table of values. And I've already got mine entered into the calculator. So I've already hit graph, second graph to get to the table of values. And I may not have things that are very nice to plot, so I may have to kind of do the best that I can here. And see where I'm getting my errors here. There's my negative 7, 4, and that was the starting point I used. Negative 6, positive 1. And I could plot the decimals, I'm just choosing not to. Negative 3, negative 2, and here's a pretty good one, 9. And negative 8. Okay, and now this is what my graph is looking like. I am starting at this value, and then I'm trying to follow my points, and missed that one a little bit. And I'm going to continue infinitely in that direction. My domain, if I can fit it in here, my domain is going to be x greater than or equal to negative 7.